This week on the show, we talk about the kickback against automation in the cannabis space, how the use of data can help you build your cannabis business, and which U.S. city just became the first in America to have retail cannabis sales surpass retail alcohol sales. We'll tell you. My name is Tim Stromble, and this is Rooted. Welcome to the show. You know, here at Rooted, we pride ourselves in keeping our nose to the ground when it comes to what's going on in the cannabis space. What? Ear to the ground. I meant ear to the ground. Any way you slice it, we're putting part of our body onto the ground to pay attention to your feedback and your comments. And not just on our show, but everywhere we look. One of the things we've noticed recently in the past couple weeks is the kickback towards automation in the cannabis cultivation part of the industry, especially on the harvest side. People are super against it. So I figured, let's talk about if automation in the cannabis industry, especially in harvesting the flower itself, is a good thing or a bad thing in this week's Two Sides. On one hand, keep your machines away from my plant. Cannabis should be an organically grown plant that is only ever touched by the careful hands of the cultivator and harvester in charge of maintaining its perfection. I believe in the fine craft of cannabis cultivation, and I don't mind paying a higher price if it means I'll get a far better product, right? Plus, machines only serve to ruin the final product by beating up the flower and knocking off the trichomes. Not to mention, machines are taking more jobs from people in an industry and an economy that's already tough enough. They took our jobs!
They took our jobs!
Machines are bad!
Yeah, they're down!
On the other hand, I'm all for machinery in the space. Wait, make that I'm all for quality machinery in the space. First off, everyone says that harvesting by hand, especially hand trimming versus machine trimming, is far superior and should be standard across the board. Well, if you look at it and do the actual research for yourself, you'll see there's very little proof that's true. And there are a few companies in the space right now who have third-party test results to prove their machines produce results that are just as good, if not better and more consistent than hand trimming, for example. Second, have you seen the people saying they only buy hand-trimmed and hand-harvested cannabis? They're the same people that are picking up their order from the drive-thru window at McDonald's with a 30-rack of Bud Light in the back seat. You're about to put both of those things into your body. Do you not realize they're not handmade? What about the butter you eat? You think that's hand-churned? Or the soda you drink? You think automation isn't there too? Every part of your life is touched by automation every day, yet for some reason you think machines can't trim a flower good enough for your holiness's Whopper value meal standards. Man, lastly, shut up about machines taking jobs.
They took our jobs!
I've been around the industry and grows long enough to know two things are for sure. One, being a cannabis hand trimmer is already a terrible gig. Long hours of sitting with terrible posture while your hands hurt and your eyes strain, and that's if you can get some transient contract work wherever you can. So automation is just putting those people out of their misery and forcing them to learn a skill. And no, I'm sorry, hand trimming cannabis is not a skill. If a little kid can use scissors, so can you. Big whoop. Second, the countless cultivations I've visited who have bought machines and brought machines on have actually created full-time jobs for machine operators that pay better, have benefits, and are less physically demanding. Then they redeploy their other full-time staff, former trimmers, to other areas of their businesses, allowing them to produce better flower with more people working on fewer things. And those are just the big companies. I've been to a number of small grows who would be out of business, frankly, if they didn't have a machine trimmer because they can't afford to pay a dozen hand trimmers at a time. So if you say you support small craft cannabis and the mom and pop shops, you should actually be all for automation because it's the only thing standing between you and a cannabis monopoly of big companies putting out crappy product and still charging way too much. Long story short, you can see where I stand. Automation is cool with me. I think it's fine. You simply can't ask the general public to accept cannabis into the mainstream and then turn around and complain when common sense mainstream solutions work their way into the industry. It's a two-way street. And like I said, automation is everywhere in all aspects of your life. Even when you go to your favorite craft brewery, which I love craft beer, and I hear all kinds of people compare it to cannabis, they're not hand brewing beer. They have machines and programs to automate the entire process. Let's get with the times. The battle against automation is over. It's here. Automation is here. Now you just have to demand better automation. Or you could always put your money where your mouth is and grow at home for yourself. Hand trim your own flowers. You'll probably love it. Oh, sorry to go on a tangent and go on a tirade, but I was sick of that and hearing about how automation is bad. What do you think? Time to tell us now. Hit up our Facebook page and comment your thoughts, and we'll share the results in a future episode. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Now let's get to business. Of course, our business segment is brought to you by the good folks over at PR420. If you've got news, PR420 wants to help you share it. Hit them up at pressrelease420.com today to get started. This week on the show, I want to tell you about a company I came across recently called Cannabis Big Data, a company that puts your data to work for you. Cannabis Big Data increases profits, efficiency, and peace of mind for all kinds of cannabis-related businesses, like cultivators, manufacturers, retail stores, ancillary companies, and I could go on and on and on. Simply put, if you have a business in the cannabis space, Cannabis Big Data wants to help you. Their cloud-based software plugs into any data source to unlock actionable insights that can have a huge impact all over your business. The key to your valuable data is having simple, intuitive ways to answer the important questions in your company. They provide over 30 modules for licensed and ancillary companies to simplify that data. But that's not all. They also provide analytic services to investors, governments, media companies, and nonprofits. It's simple. If you're running a company in the industry or you work at a company in the industry who isn't maximizing the use of their data, then you're losing money and opportunity by not hitting these guys up. Get started today with a free data consultation at cannabisbigdata.co. We'll be right back. Welcome back into the show. You know, we've talked to dozens and dozens of entrepreneurs over our past 50 or so podcast episodes, and they all have one thing in common. They had to start a business from scratch. Well, our guest on the podcast this week is Patrick Rea, the founder and CEO of Canopy Boulder, a business accelerator and investment fund for the legal cannabis industry. Patrick specializes in helping businesses go from scratch to big players in the industry, and he joins me on the show to talk about things like startups, fundraising, and investing in the cannabis industry. How can you take your idea and make it into a company? Or maybe you have a company who's looking to hit the gas pedal, but you don't know what to do. What should you say in a pitch meeting that gets your idea heard by serious investors? We answer all those questions and many more this week on the show. Here's a quick sneak peek.
We want to make more investments in the cannabis industry. We want to support more teams. We want to provide and fund the infrastructure that the cannabis industry needs on which to continue its high growth path. Because I often compare it to building a skyscraper, right? This cannabis industry is like a skyscraper. They're putting on a new floor every couple hours, right? And without a strong foundation of data, software, tech services, that building is going to go up very quickly, and then it's going to start listing over to the side, and that's not good, right? So, we spend a lot of time with CEOs of state licensed businesses in the cannabis industry in Colorado, understanding their needs. And so, what we really want to spend more time is funding companies and teams that are going to develop solutions for those acute business problems that are being identified in this mature market, which is Colorado.
Don't forget to download and subscribe to the Rooted Podcast on iTunes or SoundCloud to get the latest episodes. And leave us a nice review if you like the show. We'd appreciate it. Lastly, before we get you out of here, we have to share with you our favorite thing this week, which comes to us all the way from blank. It doesn't say. And I don't remember. This is awkward. Jim, do you know where this is from?
I'm talking about a little place called Aspen.
Oh, that's right. Thanks, Jim. A little place called Aspen, Colorado, where it's clear that cannabis hasn't just cracked into mainstream culture, but it's blowing the door wide open as for the first time in the city's history and in the history of the United States, retail cannabis has outsold retail alcohol in a town. Aspen saw cannabis sales jump 16% over the last year, from 9.7 million to 11.3 million, while retail liquor sales have remained consistent at about 10.5 million. Still a lot of money. I love this story for a lot of reasons. It shows that cannabis tourism is continuing to thrive, as Aspen's a very seasonal and touristy town. Also, these numbers show that the stigma associated with cannabis is slowly dwindling as people look for alternatives to the poison that is alcohol. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a good beer or a good whiskey or a good tequila or a good wine. I could go on, and believe me, I could go on, just like anyone else. But the rise in cannabis sales, coupled with the flatlining of liquor sales, prove that the right information is getting out to the general public who is in search of a healthier alternative to alcohol. So to Aspen, I say congrats on being the first place where this happened, and hopefully not the last place this happens. Hopefully. That's going to do it for us on the show. Quick reminder to hit up the site stayrooted.com to check out more awesome show content, like our social pages, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next week, I'm Tim Strombo, reminding you to work hard, be humble, and stay rooted.